Oh, yeah. Let's see if I get a copyright strike for that one. Probably will. Welcome to First Kick Seahawks, the show where we prepare you for every play by game day. And we're going to talk about Brandon Aiyuk of the 49ers. Or is it the 49ers? At the time of this recording, which is 9/22 on August 5th, Monday, he is still on the Niners. They did that stupid thing that agents do where they started a rumor online and then suddenly everyone's like, oh my God, he's going to the Steelers. Oh no, he's going to the Browns. But I thought he wanted to go to the Commanders, which also doesn't make any sense. We'll get into that briefly. Please like the video and subscribe to First Kick Seahawks. I would really appreciate that as we're getting ready for the start of the 2024 season. And we're going to talk about everyone's favorite rival, the 49ers. Seahawks fans, cover your ears for a few seconds. But out of all of our rivals, I actually kind of like watching the 49ers. I like the way that they play football a whole bunch. In fact, I'm pretty upset that Kyle Shanahan is their calling offense because that's the perfect offense for me, right? One with a fullback doing a bunch of the work, tight ends blocking, really good tackles, right? That's my jam. And unfortunately, we have to play them multiple times a year. Fortunately, though, Kyle Shanahan isn't good at getting his team prepared for overtime and Super Bowls, amongst other issues. But I want to talk about Brandon Aiyuk, all the hubbapaloo, lollapalooza that is about him, and why I don't care. I don't care. Now, if it was Deebo Samuel, I'd probably care a lot more. But as far as Brandon Aiyuk, third and Jennings, right? Third and long Jennings, whatever his name is, I don't care about any of the 49ers receivers because their offense does not matter as far as the receiving core goes. Their offense is based off of in between the hash marks. That's why you can put just about any running back in there and have them be successful. And it's about setting up good blocks so that you have a number advantage for that running back, which that brings the safeties down, linebackers down, and then creates a numerical advantage for the receivers. Heck, it is such a simple scheme as far as receiving goes. Jermaine Kearse could run it, right? He was often our third receiver or second receiver, but we would just bring everything down and he'd be all singled up and then he could beat somebody eventually. So if you have a good quarterback like Brock Purdy who can complete all the throws, who has good patient footwork, there is no reason that they can't just pick up another wide receiver in the draft or get some wide receiver in free agency who can do it but doesn't need to get paid top dollar. And I don't think Brandon Aiyuk should get paid top dollar. Let me show you something really quick. As this one, I think it's this button. It is. When you look at his trajectory of seasons, first of all, he has an injury problem. Last year he had an injury, year before he was healthy, and then he had an injury in 2021. But he's only had these two good seasons. 2015, 8 touchdowns, 1342, 7 touchdowns. It just so happens that those are the same exact years that Brock Purdy became the quarterback. And when they brought in Christian McCaffrey. C-Mike was Christian Michael. Christian McCaffrey. And sure, you can say that these are pretty reliant numbers, but he is their number one receiver. And Deebo Samuel's in there playing as like the utility knife. When you look at his season last year, he missed week 3 against the Giants. And then he played us twice. Both times he kind of kicked our ass. It depends on how you think about it. He had 9 targets for 6 catches, 126 yards in what appears to be week 14, and no touchdowns. And then the other game, which was week 12, he had 4 targets, 2 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown, which I believe was on Witherspoon. This was the era of Witherspoon was having ankle problems and trouble tackling. But it's not like he's absolutely pantsing us or anyone else. When you look at the game, the most he had was 2 touchdowns versus Pittsburgh in week 1. And he'll get these 129, 156 yards. And this isn't to take anything away from him or the Niners, but that passing EPA that paired with the running EPA that the 49ers had was off the charts last year. There is no reason why they can't replicate that with any other receiver if they can run the ball. And also you have to keep in mind that they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy probably after this season. So if Brock Purdy is legit, are you going to pay Trent Williams, who wants a new contract? Kittle's got like 2 years left. You just paid Christian McCaffrey, right? You still are paying Deebo Samuel. You need to get more offensive linemen for Brock Purdy eventually. How are you supposed to pay all these guys without getting rid of at least one of them? Well, you get rid of Brandon Aiyuk, and here's why. I often say, if you have a quarterback that's making top dollar, he's making top dollar because he can do everything. He doesn't need a receiver to make him look good. Geno Smith, we can talk all about Geno Smith as far as like his talent, but I do know one thing. He's got some good offensive linemen. He's got good running backs. He's got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN. And on top of that, he's also got, at the time, he had 3 really good tight ends. Now he's got Noah Fant. And, man, there's not an empty hole on that offense. He can get paid middle-of-the-road quarterback money, and then you still have enough money to then pay DK Metcalf and Lockett. Whereas if he was making $60 million a year, which Dak Prescott's up for, which is why Amari Cooper might be leaving the Cowboys, you suddenly don't have enough cap space to pay your receiving core and your offensive line and your running backs and your tight ends and your defense. And they have to pay the hell out of the defense, and they're already paying top dollar for all of the other skill positions other than receiver. So something's got to give. If Brock Purdy decides to take a massive pay cut, that's how you keep Brandon Aiyuk. But in the instance of DK Metcalf, we can pay him top dollar because all of that money that would be going to him, or rather to Geno Smith, if Geno Smith was getting a full top 5 quarterback contract, it would be absorbed and gone. And the 49ers are most definitely going to pay Brock Purdy top dollar because he's going to demand it, or they're going to get rid of Brock Purdy, and I don't think they're going to do that. So if Brandon Aiyuk is going to stay on the 49ers, he's either going to get like franchise tagged, or he's going to have to take a huge pay cut. Or, which would be absurd, they're just going to front all the money right at the beginning and then have him drop off after a year or two because they're in win now mode. It's unlikely. What I do believe, though, is that if you have a good quarterback, it does not matter who your receiving core is, really. Sure, you need guys that can run routes and catch, but you don't need a superstar at receiver, and we just saw an example of that with Patrick Mahomes, where it didn't matter who he was throwing to. He just needed them to catch the ball because he can get the ball there. With Brock Purdy, it doesn't matter who he's throwing to because he has great footwork, and Christian McCaffrey and that running scheme open things up for him. People will say, why is George Kittle not getting the ball thrown to him as much? Well, it's because he's blocking and he's setting things up for everyone else. And one thing that they're probably going to miss from Brandon Aiyuk if they let him go in one way or another, right, is he does block really well as a receiver, something I give DK Metcalf credit for. But you can't just pay a guy top dollar and the quarterback and not have, because then you can't pay the offensive line. And if they're going to keep Trent Williams, they're going to have to lose him or Aiyuk. and they don't have any other offensive linemen on that 49ers roster. So that's how I feel about the Brandon Aiyuk situation as far as what would I do. The big thing, though, is if he is going to go somewhere, where would it be? Well, it's been projected that he might go to the Commanders. I don't think so, because most teams don't trade their stars into the same conference. They want to get them to the other conference. So the other two names that have been going about are the Steelers and the Browns. The Browns, I don't think they would pay him nearly as much as he wants because they put so much money into Deshaun Watson. And a lot of their contracts are kind of front-loaded right now for the defense. There's not a lot of money on that offense. The other thing is the Steelers. He could do really well with the Steelers because, first of all, they actually have quarterbacks. You might argue Justin Fields and Russell might not be good quarterbacks, but they at least have quarterbacks compared to Deshaun Watson, who was atrocious last year. And he's got a good receiving core around him already, which is George Pickens. And he's got Mike Tomlin, who's been an offensive guru for a decade now and always seems to get the best out of his players, especially wide receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster. That one. Juju Smith-Schuster. Is that how you say his name? I don't know. I don't care anymore. The point is, if he was to go there, he could still do what he's good with the 49ers, which is blocking. They have so many good running backs with the Steelers. And in fact, the Steelers, with Mason Rudolph throwing just deep passes all day, were able to make it to the playoffs and beat the Seahawks and other teams by just running the hell out of the ball. So if Brandon Aiyuk wants to take his skill set to a team that's ready to compete, and Mike Tomlin's probably got a year left to prove it before he gets kicked out of Pittsburgh, he probably wants to go to Pittsburgh because they're not paying a quarterback, so they have the money to pay him, and then it's a running scheme which he is already pretty invested in, as shown with the 49ers. If he goes to the Browns, first of all, it's the Browns. Who wants to go to the Browns? Second of all, they just won't be able to pay him as much because they've already invested in the quarterback. And as I established earlier, you can't pay everyone. You can either pay your receiving core and your quarterback and your offensive line, or your offensive line and your receiving core, unless your quarterback is good and takes a gigantic, pay cut like Geno Smith basically has. So when Ian Rappaport is doing the eye emoji on Twitter, it's probably, hey, there's conversations happening in the background, but it's also likely that he'll just get paid towards the end of camp, right? We would have players like Cam Chancellor hold out so that they didn't have to participate in camp anymore, so they could spend time at home taking care of their body. Aiyuk has been at the 49ers camp a couple times, but mostly it's just to use the bathroom and just walk around. So he's not getting those same reps that you would if he was invested fully. So they could just pay him in September when he decides to finally sign the deal and he's the one holding off. It could also be that the agent thinks that he is worth more than he really is, and so he's trying to get the Steelers and company to give the 49ers big enough compensation and offer big enough compensation, like a second round pick, right? Or a first round pick if they're really, really feeling jelly, right? He might, as an agent, be trying to convince the 49ers to pay Brandon Aiyuk top dollar because other teams view him as worthy of that top dollar. So whenever you see someone like Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter's the worst at this, right? And they're talking about trades or they're highlighting rumors about trades, it's most likely because some agent gave them some note, right? Saying, hey, did you hear? The Steelers wanted to give a second and a third for Brandon Aiyuk, right? And then all of this starts this rumor mill that then makes it over to John Lynch of the 49ers GM office. And you never really know from there if they view that is financially worth it or not, or if they think that, wow, they're really stupid for offering a second and a third for him, we should take that deal because we're not paying him top dollar. Or it could be, wow, they're offering a second and a third for him. This dude's definitely worth top dollar if other teams think that he's financially in that realm, right? We can't let this guy go because he's just worth too much. So that's mostly my thoughts on the 49ers situation surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. It's going to be a short stream today because I just wanted to cover the one topic. I just got off the clock at work, so I'm sleepy. But before something happens with Brandon Aiyuk, because this has been a topic that's been dragging on all off season, I just wanted to let my record on it know, right? Thank you for being here and watching First Kick Seahawks. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let's see, preseason starts this weekend for the Seahawks, right? I think we're playing someone. That's for sure. I'm gonna guess Titans. Let's find out. Preseason schedule 2024. We play the Chargers August 10th. Then we play the Titans August 17th. And then the Browns August 24th. So I was close. I will see you guys around before we do that Chargers show. And you enjoy the rest of your night.